Good evening, viewers. You're welcome to tonight's edition of Politics with KO on your TV station, Ben Television. We do apologize for coming up to you a few minutes late. Tonight, we're going to be discussing gender inequality and democracy in Nigeria. Ayisha Osori will be joining us via Skype from Nigeria's capital, Abuja, and in the studio, we'll have Jenny Okafor. You all know that gender inequality is actually a worldwide problem, and women are oppressed all over the world. But that of Nigeria is a difficult one to contend with. Ayisha is a lawyer, consultant, writer with experience in corporate practice, communications and gender advocacy. She has worked in energy and finance units of a lot of international NGOs. She's the CEO of the Nigerian Women's Trust Fund. That's an organization that is focused on increasing the number of women in decision-making. Osori is a graduate of law from the University of Lagos and Harvard Law School, and recently she graduated from the Harvard Kennedy School with a master's in public administration. She was called to the Nigerian and New York State Bar in 1998 and 2000, respectively. She's passionate about supporting the creation of an enabling environment for women and girls in Nigeria. And we also have Jennifer. Jenny Chika Okafor is the president of the Nigerian Women in Diaspora Leadership Forum. Jenny is a UK-based lawyer, passionate about equality issues, which promote and protect the physical, mental, and moral integrity of all people, regardless of their gender and background. Jenny, you're welcome to the program.
Thank you so much, Kaide.
And I should also say that before we go into tonight's edition, I would like to send my condolences to the family and loved ones of all the victims of violence in Nigeria. Even as it appears the Nigerian military are making progress in curtailing the activities of the terrorist group Boko Haram, the vicious sect struck again, killing 55 Nigerians in a mosque in Borno State. Now back to the issue. Do we have Ayisha in Abuja? Ayisha? Okay, Ayisha, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, let's have Jenny. Jenny, gender inequality. What is all the fuss about women crying about equality?
Well, as you know, I'm so glad you mentioned it earlier on. As we know, worldwide, there is clear inequality among sexes. Yeah. And especially in politics and leadership. Politics and leadership, people have always looked as leadership as a domain of men. And as far as they're concerned, the woman's position is in the kitchen, it's in the house, we're supposed to be raising children. And the men are supposed to go out there, earn the living, bring in money. That's balanced. We accept that. However, because of that age-long perception of where women are supposed to be, the division of labor amongst genders, women have overly been overlooked. We're not involved in decision-making. Yet, what people are forgetting is that if, as a mother and as a woman, I'm able to conceive a child, raise a child, who then becomes a president, becomes a governor, becomes a legislator, that child is a reflection of me. Therefore, if I'm able to give them the strength and confidence to be who they are, making the difference in the lives of everybody and the world, then clearly, now let
me give you some statistics here. How can you say you're oppressed? I mean, look, you have in the Nigerian government, you have 13 ministers that are female. What else do you want? What else do you demand? 13 out of how many? It's a great representation, wouldn't you say?
42.
Well, I doubt that you are actually correct there, because that is actually the trouble I struggle with. Because if we believe, or if we know that in every home there's a man and a woman, and that is the actual reflection of the Nigerian society. And then within the legislature and leadership or governance, you have about 100 men, and then you have 13 women. Clearly, where is the balance? Where is the equitable balance in that ratio? Okay, because if you're talking about the number of women in government, we also need to look at the number of men and women in society. If we have 100 men in society and we have 80 men in leadership, and 100 women in society and 13 women in leadership, then clearly there is a great inequality between the sexes and the representation of women in leadership. So clearly, it's not right to say that we are moaning, are we complaining. I actually expect the average Nigerian man, woman, and child to actually add their voice to this, because we need to have more women in leadership. Many decisions that affect women and children, and especially our girls, are being made by men. I'm not saying that men lack the ability to make proper decisions and proper judgments in matters concerning everybody, but we ought to be part of it, and if we are part of it, we will make better laws, and that is
let me check if Ayisha is with us. Hello, Ayisha, can you hear us?
I can hear you loud and clear. Can you hear me?
Yes, please. Ayisha, can you tell us what your organization is all about and what you're doing about women representation in politics in Nigeria?
Sure, but before then, just listening to two of you, I want to quickly throw in that we have 42 ministers in total. So the total percentage of women in the president's cabinet is actually 33.3%. And just touching on what we started the conversation on, for me, the reason why women should be in decision making is sort of tied to what Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala calls smart economics. You cannot have the kind of development that Nigeria needs when half of its population is uneducated, dying of maternal-related or child-related diseases, and is not educated and skilled to be productive. Also, the truth is that women have different life experiences from men, and having this balance of different perspectives when you're making policy and implementing is just invaluable. And if I use maybe for our viewers something that's more cosmopolitan in terms of talking about how women's perspective changes things, I don't know how many people have read Sheryl Sandberg's book, Lean In, where she uses this anecdote. I don't know if you've read the book. She uses this anecdote of how she was pregnant at Google, and nobody had ever thought of having special parking space up front. They have spaces for people who are disabled, but nobody ever thought of the fact that when you're 8 months pregnant and running for a meeting, holding your files and your laptop, it's a real problem. And so nobody had put a policy together, but not because the men didn't like women. It's because nobody had thought about it. They had never been pregnant. Exactly. So she walked up to her. She walked up to the people and said, we need a policy for women who are pregnant. And they're like, sure, do it.
But let me put this to you. Would having a policy bias for women not be gender bias against men?
But it's not policy bias. No. It's policy inclusion. Exactly. I don't know if what I've said has given that impression. We don't want bias. We want inclusion. So it's not saying that the laws should only be for women. It's saying that when you're making policy, then reflect it to mean that half of your population exists and have different needs. Is that simple?
Okay, I'll get back to you, Ayisha. Jennifer, okay, let's accept there's a problem here. Obviously, women representation, but how about the ordinary woman in the village, like my mother who is farming in a career, and how will she get a voice in the political system? I mean, what you get is women having ashwebi during political rallies. What needs to be done to move this forward?
Well, thank you so much for that again. There's so much has been talked about women empowerment, women in leadership, and all of that. But one thing people are forgetting is that you don't necessarily have to be at the House of Representatives or your local House of Assembly to be a woman leader. And in order to be a woman leader, you could be a woman leader in your village. You said your mother is a farmer. She has a voice. She knows what she's doing. She's leading in the farming industry. And there are women who are looking up to her, aspiring to be like her. What we really need to do is to empower her, to give her the voice she needs as a farmer who is leading in that aspect of her life. And then by doing that, other women would look at her and know that indeed they can actually have a voice, and they will add to form women-friendly policy formulations. But if we don't actually empower them, then they can't do it. That's why it's quite important to me that as we clamor for change, women who are fortunate, because I consider myself privileged to have had education, we should also begin to look at grassroots women, because those are the people that have power. If I want to go for any elective office, you alone cannot vote for me. I need those women, and they need to know why they are giving me the opportunity to serve them.
I'll get Ayisha, if you're still with us, can I ask you, Ayisha?
I'm here.
Is Ayisha still with us?
I'm still here.
Okay, now, Ayisha, I really need to ask you this question. Now, what do we say about women who are already in politics and are still as corrupt as the male gender? is it not right to say the problem is not about gender inequality, but that generally everyone, irrespective of where the gender, is corrupt? In Nigeria, you have Cecilia Ibro, for example. She's meant to be a shining example of a woman in power.
Yeah, true. But I mean, for me, what I see is that our political institutions as a whole and our economic institutions as a whole are extractive instead of inclusive. So the truth is, you cannot expect the women who go in there. Bear in mind two things. First of all, women are traditionally excluded. So the few women who make it in there, one, want to stay in there, so they need to play by the rules by which they find themselves within. That's two. That's one. Two, they probably want to return. So again, they need to play by the rules. So for me, it's more a function of how do we change our political institutions. Yes, granted, there are women who get in there and they're corrupt, as like the men. But why we should be asking ourselves, why do we have a situation where only the corrupt are getting into power? Why are we not having a situation where the Jennies or the other people who are not corrupt are getting into power? That's the question I think we should be talking about.
I would like to get Jenny's opinion on that.
I thank you again, because what Ayisha said, it's not just a question of having women in power. I'm not advocating a situation where any woman who wants to be in office for any particular reason is there. We are looking for competent and highly credible women who will represent the traditional woman. Okay, but when you talk about it, right now, majority of the women we have in power are not people who are there as of merit. They are people who are friends of people in office. They see being in office as a matter of favor, not right. Yeah. And if that is the case, if you, Kayode, gives me the ticket to go into the House of Representatives to be a House of Rep member or anything, I dance to your tune. Whatever you tell me to do, I do it. Because one, I know that women are excluded from leadership, and I have been given a rare opportunity. I'm not there in my own right, and I will have to do what the rest of the people are doing. But if we advocate a situation where independent-minded women who are credible, who are competent, actually have the platform to go in there in their own right with our godfathers and godmothers, they will speak for us. And then we have more women. Because if there are a good number of women, we will make the difference.
Ayisha, you were going to say something, but before you do...
Yeah, I was going to say... Oh, okay, carry on.
Before you do so, there's a statistics here. I mean, from 1959 till date, president has been all male, vice president all male, governors all male, senators 109, 3 senators female senators in 1999, 12 members of House of Reps are female. Out of 990 State House of Assembly members, 12 are female. Is it not something we should be embarrassed about as a country?
Oh, it's definitely something we should be embarrassed about. And considering that we also have a gender policy that was created and passed in 2006 by President Olusegun Obasanjo, which recommended at least 35%. So there should be 35% representation. So you'd be asking yourself, why aren't the governors implementing this? One of the statistics you didn't mention, but which is also included, is in all the 36 states, not a single one of the state governors, executive, I think Ogun State is the highest with 30, but none of them have 35%. So you'd be asking yourself, if you have a gender policy that recommends 35%, why aren't the governors and the councillors trying to adhere to this? So yes, it is a disgrace, especially considering that we think we're the giants of Africa, where Rwanda is leading the whole world in terms of its female representation in parliament, and South Africa as well, due to the ANC, is doing very well as well. And so
Ayisha, I would like to cut in here. I want to bring to your attention another statistics. In local government chairperson representation of women across the geopolitical zones, the Northwest altogether has got less than 3%, Southeast 5.50%, South-South 5.93%, Southwest 4.93%. What is happening in northern Nigeria in terms of female representation?
Do you want her to come in?
Ayisha, are you with me?
That's very interesting, because the truth is many of the... Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Now? Hello?
We can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, great. I was saying that I think that number for Northwest is actually quite encouraging, and I say that with no irony. Because actually in many of these states in the North, Northwest, and Northeast, you find that they have no female representation in the National Assembly and no females in their state House of Assembly. So So it's actually even encouraging. I didn't know this data, it's giving me data I don't have. So I know that the Northwest actually has up to 3% of women's representation. It's actually something positive to talk about.
Okay.
When you talk about why is there low female representation in the North, it is because there is a belief that Islam does not allow women to be in leadership positions. But I think that's one angle. The other angle is that the women are not largely educated. There's just a large number of them that's not educated. And if you look at whether the UNESCO data or even the gender in Nigeria report, you find that the lowest numbers in terms of literacy are trying to compare.
Ayisha, let me get Jenny's comment on this. Is it not true that generally politics is monetized? So even if you have a woman who is meant to represent a local government, as soon as you give her the right amount of cash, she's going to give it to a man.
I don't think so. It's actually the government and policies not creating a level playing field for women. For instance, I'm looking at Anambra State at the moment. Yeah. There is going to be a state election, gubernatorial election in November. Now people are expressing interest, but what actually frightens the hell out of me is that in my state, a state that is recognized for being the most troublesome state, there's at the moment just one woman who is going to contest for the governorship of the state. Of course, we are allowed to register without having to pay the registration fee and all of that. But what the government has forgotten is that a lot of us women have not actually been working and earning the sort of money that people use in fighting for elections. So if you're going to give us free tickets to run for political offices, you must also provide the funding for election campaigns and things like that. So that is actually putting women off. Funding
is one important thing you've mentioned now.
Exactly.
And Ayisha, I was reading about your organization. You do a lot of work in terms of raising funds for women in politics. Can you tell us more about that? We've lost Ayisha there. Well, I was trying to say that Ayisha's organization, they do a lot of work in terms of raising funds for women who want to go into politics. What more can be done?
A lot needs to be done. We need to begin to encourage women to identify their leadership potentials and believe that with or without money, so long as they have the competence, they have the mind to go in there and do the best, and they are also qualified, they should actually be able to go there and run for elective offices with or without money. And I'm thinking as well that the government should actually, the policy should be reviewed, and it should be made mandatory that if any political party is going to flag off their election and they're going to introduce candidates for elective offices, unless we have equal number of men and women contesting for those political offices, they should not actually be allowed to register.
We want to encourage you to call in. The phone lines are going to be open pretty shortly. You'll have the phone numbers on the screen. I also want to touch on one very important topic, the increase in rape in Nigeria, especially gang rape. Are we losing it in our country? What are we doing about this issue of more men getting involved in raping our younger girls? What can be done? We actually need to look into our conscience and see what is the way forward. I wrote about the ABSU rape, how we all kept quiet after the unfortunate incident. What can we do to save Nigerian girls from being used as a tool? Do we still have Ayisha on the line?
I'm back. We got disconnected, but I'm back now.
Yes, Ayisha, I was just talking about the rape, the increase in gang rape in Nigeria.
Yes. Look, for me, I look at the issue of rape in two ways. One is that we're here, it's not that there's an increase. That's one version or one story. It's not that it's an increase, it's that we're hearing more about it now. These things have always been happening. But because of the media, because there's heightened awareness, because there's a sense that there's gender activism, people care about these issues. So we're hearing more and more people speaking out. That's one. On the other hand, yes, you might say, or you might argue that there's more. Why do we have more? It could be a function of the fact that the economy is very bad. People are oppressed, and like in every system, if you are an oppressed man, you look for the next person to oppress and pass the oppression on to you. And so that's why women are on the receiving end. And then that's one angle. The other angle is that there's no law and order. So people know they can get away with it, and I think for me that's the biggest factor. So you
Okay.
rape a person,
Ayisha,
you're not going to go to prison, you're not going to get indicted for it. In fact, the victim won't come forward. That's the typical.
Ayisha, 1 minute, 1 second, Ayisha. 1 second, we have a caller on the line. Good evening.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. What's your name and where are you calling from, please?
Vince from London.
Vincent, go ahead with your contribution.
Just want to give the lady a suggestion. What you need to do in Nigeria for ladies, in addition to affirmative provision, or whatever representation, now that they have agreed on independent candidates for election, women should be allowed to pick up forms for any position they want to apply for in politics without necessarily being belonging to any political party. That way, it will cost you less. It cost you nothing. When you go for campaign, you don't succeed, you just go. But going through the party formation, you are suffering and going to suffer a lot and waste your time more trying to get into that through that eye of the deal.
Vincent, that's an interesting position you just raised. Women should be allowed to pick independent.
Would you mind explaining to me what he said? I couldn't hear.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Vincent is suggesting that INEC should create a platform where women could run as independent candidates. They don't have to join a political platform. But before then, we have Ade on the line. Ade, good evening.
Hello, good evening, Kate.
Ade, where are you calling from, please?
I'm calling from Northampton.
Okay, please make your contribution.
All right. To me, I feel the whole idea of asking for a special treatment for women kind of undermines the whole idea that women are capable of leading Nigeria to the promised land. I think that the same opportunity that avails to men, which also avails to women, women are meant to take advantage of that situation, that opportunity that they have at the moment to fight. Once they are able to fight, the men will be able to respect them and see them as powerhouse.
Okay, let Jennifer quickly respond to that. Why can't you operate, if you ask for affirmative action for women, you're undermining the very essence of equality.
Well, that is very essential at the moment because of the imbalance at present, we need to close the gap. When we close the gap, then we can throw it open for everybody to compete. But right now, you can't tell me that it's fair to have about 100 men and 10 women fighting against 100 men. So we need to actually do some sort of positive discrimination to recognize that these people, just like black people, are underrepresented in certain areas, and women in this country as well. So the government is forcing policies through, encouraging people to recognize that imbalance.
Ayisha, how will you respond to the suggestion that women should be allowed to pick independent candidacy form and run outside the political parties?
I think it's fantastic, and it's one of the things that, you can hear me, right?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, and it's one of the things that we as gender advocates under the umbrella of GERCON have been pushing forward in terms of constitutional reform. And so far, the Senate hasn't touched it, and their report hasn't included it, but the House of Reps, God bless them, have included it in terms of one of the things that they're going to look at and include into the Constitution. If we get that, then it will be a much fairer, I think, because the political parties are the major problems for female politicians in Nigeria.
Okay, 1 second, Ayisha. We have Patience, our first female caller today. Patience, good evening.
Hi, good evening. Hi.
Where are you calling from, please?
I'm calling from Swansea.
Okay, please make your contribution.
Yeah. I have 3 things to share before I make a final, put in a final question or, contribution. First of all, at the beginning of the show, you mentioned that there were 13 ministers out of 42, and what were women demanding for with that? Now, I want to make it clear that this is only a present construction of the government, and these 13 positions are in appointive capacities, not elective. So how then do we maintain this number? What if a new government comes into power and now decides, we're not going to have 13 women, we're bringing it down to 7. What then happens to the women? That takes us back.
So what would be the equation you suggest in terms of balance in the cabinet?
Well, what I am suggesting is that women should come together. We should find a way to come together, rub minds on possible pathways to lobbying the National Assembly to legislate on women's quotas. Now, we know that we have 3 different types of women's quotas running in different countries of the world. There are legislative quotas, constitutional quotas, and voluntary quotas system, which is what Nigeria is running at the moment under the National Gender Policy. But if that is not legislated, at the moment, President Goodluck Jonathan has pronounced 35% for the women. What if another government comes and says, okay, we're not doing 35%, we'll bring it down to 20% or even 10%?
That's a valid point. I'm sorry I'll have to cut you short. We've got another caller, Tunde. Tunde, good evening. I'm fine. Where are you calling from, Tunde?
Yeah, my name is Tunde Belati.
Yeah.
I'm calling from Luton.
Okay, please make your contribution, please.
Yeah, my contribution is more or less a question. Number one, how many of the women are ready for this challenge we're talking about?
Yeah.
Number one, if you go to if you look at Nigerian context in principle, you find out that most of the women are either not even ready or they have a complex of men that are taking charge of the polity in its sense. Let us look for example. Etete, when Etete was the speaker of the
House of Reps.
House of Reps, within a short while she fell prey to intimidation and she was unable to carry on. I would think the system in itself in Nigeria has encouraged women to come out and participate. But the issue is that how many of the women can stand
Tunde, thank you very much. How many women can stand the test of time, break the system, and be a shining example?
Many of us. The answer is many of us. And actually, that is the core work of my group. We recognize that there are a lot of women who are highly competent, but they possibly do not have the confidence, and we are not presenting. Yeah. Part of the trouble facing the Nigerian woman is because the majority of us have been conditioned to accept that our place is in the home. So we are concentrating on the home and not actually letting our leadership potential shine through. So now we are encouraging women to come on board, tell us exactly what they want to do, what their aspirations are, why they feel that they're not where they're supposed to be, where they want to be, and then we can sit down with them, put plans together, and then make sure that their voices are heard, and whatever they want to do, they're able to do it, and Nigeria can begin to see and enjoy the achievement of women.
Before we go to Michael, Ayisha, are you still with us?
I am.
Okay, Ayisha, what can be done in terms of specific? What can we do? Because obviously these are very terrible statistics in terms of empowerment, either socially, economically, or politically. Your organization is doing in terms of enlightenment. You're raising money for women in politics. What else can we do?
What else we can do is try and encourage more of the right type of women to come out into politics. The same problem, I talked about political institutions, is the same problem plaguing Nigeria as a whole that is plaguing women in politics. Politics has become the place where people who don't have anything else to do go to. And I'm not saying everybody there is like that, but predominantly the view. And I mean, even if you look at what the constitutional requirements are for being in office, it's like school certs. Do you understand? Yeah. So by nature, by over the decades, it has seemed like politics is something that unserious people go into, and serious people go into the private sector as lawyers and doctors. Yeah. What we need to do, and what the Nigerian Women's Trust Fund is doing, is actively working with associations like FIDA, that's the Federation of International Women Lawyers, lawyers in taxation, lawyers engineers and professionals. We want to get these people to start moving in. As Jenny said, there are many capable women who are breaking the ceiling in the private sector. We need to get them into the public sector and then help them manage, as she said, the confidence, the speaking, the campaigning, knowing the political issues. That's what we're all doing. If we can start doing these things steadily, we'll break through.
Hold on your thoughts for a minute or for a second, please. I've got Taiwo on the line. Taiwo, good evening. Good evening, Taiwo.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Taiwo. Please, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Coventry.
Okay, please make your contribution, please.
Yeah, my little contribution I want to make is just to advise the ladies, the Ayisha and Mrs. Okafor, sorry if I don't call
Mrs. Okafor, you're right.
Yes. It's about, what really happened is that they are cajoling them about the first lady issue. The women should stand up to contest as a governor or president of that country. They should fight against first lady post. They are just cajoling them about that post. That's just my little advice.
Taiwo, thanks. That is true, though. Every woman wants to be the wife. Well, most women, don't let me say every woman. Most women now want to be the next Dame Patience Jonathan. That's what Taiwo is saying.
That is a general perception, but that's not true. And if it's true for some women, it's not true for me. I am one person who would like to go for an elective office, but what is holding me back is that I am an action-oriented person. I don't want to be that beautiful, decorated face sitting in front of the senator or something. If I want to go into Nigerian politics, I want to make the difference. I want to make the impact. I want to be the governor, because I have a voice and I know that I can deliver. I want to be the Senate president. I want to be the Speaker of the House of Representatives and the first female president of Nigeria. But the trouble is that there are several factors militating against me because people are not taking women seriously. And to tell you, a woman of my age, some men still do not see me as intelligent or capable enough of delivering on the Nigerian agenda. They'd rather have me as a girlfriend, and that's wrong. We need to change the attitude of the people.
Ayisha, Ayisha, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
I want to bring you to your attention. There's a lady called Zainab Usman. She was in the UK. She's got 3 masters, a first degree, and she went on to contest election, and she's now a councillor. She didn't go for Senate or House of Reps. She's a councillor in Abuja. Is it not right to say everyone, irrespective of male or female, should start from the grassroots?
It is
Depends
right,
on the individual.
but it's not the only way. It's encouraging. We definitely need our best people in the local government. That's the truth. But the truth also is that, again, talking about structures and political institutions, local governments hardly get their money. How effective are you going to be if you're not getting any money? If your money to do your work is still tied on the fact that you must kneel down in front of the governor. So, we need to change our political structures. And I think this is what, again, the Nigerian Women's Trust Fund is doing. If we don't change the framework, free up local government autonomy for local government, we will not get the best people going in there. I applaud Zainab Usman. It's fantastic. We want more people going in there, but it's not the only way. Some people can start at the House of Assembly, some people can start at the state. There's lots of work to be done. Any way that anybody feels they can contribute, they should contribute.
Fantastic.
But we also need to take into consideration the limitations of local governments in particular. They don't get their money. So how effective will you actually be?
Okay, before Jennifer comes in, we've got Austin. Austin, good evening. Good evening, Austin. I think we've lost Austin.
Okay. I mean, taking on from what Ayisha said, you did ask that question if it's not necessary for people to start from the grassroots. There is nothing wrong with that. However, people have various levels of ambition, and if you, as a man, you have the same qualification as me. I possibly have better experience in law and other aspects of life than you, but you are respected as a man and you can go in as a governor of a state or Senate president. Why can't I actually be given that same opportunity? Absolutely. So it's a question of equal opportunity and proper assessment of people's competencies and capabilities. It doesn't necessarily mean that I have to be a school teacher in order to become a principal. I can just come in and become a principal.
Okay, we've got Princess on the line. Good evening, Princess.
Good evening.
Good evening. Please, where are you calling from?
From London here.
Please make your contribution, please.
Yeah, my contribution is that it's a very good job the 2 ladies are doing, especially Ayisha, who is helping people to get money if they want to be in politics. Because as the other man said, every woman wants to be at the top. They want to work for Nigeria. But when there is no money to go through, because before you can get to the top in Nigeria, you must have a godfather or you have a bundle of money before you can do it. So if Ayisha is there in Nigeria, and thank God you bring her to the world to see. Now, many people will get her name and a number, they will get in touch with her. So you can see many women will go into politics. And my advice to the president now is to give us 50, at least 50%.
Okay, on that note of 50%, let me bring in Patience. Good evening, Patience.
Yes.
Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Swansea.
Okay, go ahead. You were in before. Good evening. Can you make your contribution? Okay, I think So
maybe Patience was calling back because we didn't really address her issues. I'm not sure. Did we attend to Patience's contribution?
I'm not sure. Maybe we didn't get. But Ayisha, a lot of people are commending your organization for the work you're doing in terms of raising money for women who want to go into politics. What are the hindrances that you face, you know, in trying to help women? What are the challenges you're facing?
Well, the number one challenge is just that, the funds. The truth is the Nigerian Men's Trust Fund got its initial seed capital from, ironically enough, the government. It shows that the government is, to a certain level, very committed on this agenda, and you must commend them for that. But since 2011, when we were preparing for the last elections, when we got a sum of money that most of it was spent, over 60 million was spent giving money to over 150 women across 25 different parties, we're still struggling to build up our war chest for the next election. So yes, the major thing is fundraising. That's the biggest challenge. The second biggest challenge is trying to fix the framework. So the things we want in the constitution to change, the affirmative action, independent candidacy, local government, and dealing with the issue of residency, which is a big issue for women in Nigeria. Because when we marry, we take on the identities of our husband. Yeah. So a woman from Kano who marries a man from Ondo, where does she come from? When she wants to run from Ondo, they tell her, you are not from here. Meanwhile, she has spent the last 20 years there. Then does she go back home to Kano? When Kano, they say, you left us 20 years ago. You're not from here. Wow. This is another big issue that keeps a lot of very competent women out of politics. So we need to fix these things. Okay. And so for me, those are the two biggest challenges.
Okay, thank you, Ayisha. Jennifer, what you work from the diaspora and you try and network a lot of women. What are the challenges you face as an organization?
Well, one of the major challenges is actually to get the confidence of the women because of the traditional attitude to women in leadership. Nobody wants to take it seriously. They think, oh, well, you're not going to get anywhere. And that being the case, we won't bother, wasting our time with you. But we are actually making all the difference, providing training courses, communication, oral and written, whatever it is, business skills. Because if you want to be an empowered woman, you also have to have the skills to deliver on whatever you want to do. So we are having challenges, having to recruit women, having to get them interested, and also getting financial support from other people. We are luckily, financed last year by the Big Lottery Fund. But we want our own government and own people to take interest in what we are doing.
Okay, we've got another caller on the line. Good evening.
Good evening.
Please, what's your name and where are you calling from, please?
I'm Austin. I'm calling from London here.
Okay.
My name is Austin.
Austin, we can hear you. Can you make your contribution, please?
Yes, very quickly. The issue is how can we have more women in politics? Firstly, I want to appreciate Mrs. Jonathan for the role she has played in trying to get more women in good elective and executive position. That is one. Two, to get women in politics in Nigeria is a big Herculean task because they cannot stand the stress and the rigors. Take what is happening between Jonathan and Amechi. Yeah. If a woman was the governor, will he be able to stand that stress? They can't.
So how did you come into the conclusion that a woman cannot stand against perceived injustice, the same way a man will do?
Yes, look at the fight in the House of Assembly. Look at how they were breaking their heads. No women can go through that rigor.
So, but it's got a point. Do you want to come in?
Yes, can I come in there, Austin? I need to make something very clear here. Of course, we've had blips. We are members of the legislature fought in the houses, and which happens in many parts of the world. But it's not a fighting ground, and women are so gifted naturally that we are not disposed towards violence. So if we have more women in that house, those things that happened could not have happened. And we are very resilient naturally. I can tell you that I come into this place and there are 100 people fighting. That does not necessarily mean that I have to fight with them in order to make my point. We have different ways of making our point.
Let me get Ayisha to come in. Ayisha, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yeah, there's this thing about that the physical, the nature of a woman will not make her stand the rigors of campaign across the terrain. And we have a difficult terrain in Nigeria. How would you react to that?
That's not true.
I honestly think that's just, excuse my language, bullshit. Women are not made less special. We're the ones who bear children. Imagine carrying a 3.3 kg ball in your stomach. and farming and washing other children and cooking. We are very resilient, as Jenny said, and there's nothing so special about Nigerian terrain that is not in America. Hillary Clinton ran a strong campaign. We're not the only people in the country in the world that have women. The truth is, again, it comes down to what kind of women and men are taking part in politics. If you have a message, if you have the passion, you will carry out these things with vigor. Your passion will see you through. So I think that physical issue, and then the things that keep women out of politics, like the violence, those are things that don't even belong in politics in the first place. Yeah. We should not condone it. We should not be saying that women shouldn't join politics because it's violent. Politics should not be violent. It should be about ideas, about issues, about vision. And so people should be punished for the violence. And again, that's where our institutions are lacking and failing women and all Nigerians by default.
Okay, Ayisha,
Ayisha, would not be doing these types of things.
Let's have Michael. Michael, good evening.
Hey.
Where are you calling from, please?
I'm calling from Nottingham.
Okay, please go ahead, make your contribution.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, apart from the system and society, I think women themselves, especially young women, are a big problem to themselves. I mean, how many young women do you really see, getting interested to read the newspaper, find out what is happening, in the political arena, or even show interest in joining politics?
That's the point Michael is raising. I mean, women...
I've interacted with many young Nigerian girls in university, they don't show interest. They are not, look, apart from...
Michael, how many Nigerian girls have you interacted with? And I don't mean this in a funny way, considering the fact that we have more than 40 million plus Nigerians. Would that be a true representation of...
Well, I wouldn't say I've interviewed or spoken with... I wouldn't say I've interviewed or spoken with all the Nigerian girls, but the majority I've spoken with don't have interest in politics. They see politics as a man's business, They'll prefer to marry a politician than be a politician. Do you understand? So, I think women like Ayisha and, the lady you have today should go out there and reorientate the minds of this young lady.
Okay, and that is exactly what we're doing. We're almost, it's a pity, today's program is like going fast like a rocket. Ayisha, sorry to cut you short because we're almost coming to the end of the program. Ayisha, do you have parting words for us?
My parting words are, guys, we need to get all hands on deck. There are 160 million Nigerians. Every single Nigerian gave as small as 100 naira. Just think how formidable that fund will be. We need to be funding good men and women for the 2015 elections and beyond. So people should stop talking too much. Talking is appreciated, but we need money. We need money to run campaigns. Money is not the only thing, but please put your money where your mouth is if you care about Nigeria. 100 naira. Just imagine 10 million Nigerians giving 100 naira. We can give the bad people a run for their money. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Ayisha. Thanks for joining us from Abuja. Jennifer, what would be your parting word?
Precisely what Ayisha said is something I have been saying. Corruption as well is the main issue. People should be encouraged to know that corruption should not actually pervade the polity. We must not sell our votes, and if we must sell our votes, you can take the money and still vote the right person, because I have this campaign which I call Take the Money, but Follow Your Conscience. So Nigerians must invest money.
We have to quickly end now. Thanks, viewers, for watching Politricks today. Next week, we're going to bring in a woman to have a segment. We want to thank the production team. Good night and have a blessed